Welcome to Coast Creatives, a podcast for and about working professional artists within the entertainment industry. I'm your host, Joe Funk, and here we interview actors, directors, photographers, writers, and many, many more. Today, I'm honored to be joined by filmmaker Rippin Sindher, whose new short film, Flight 182, is both a creative achievement and a deeply personal act of remembrance. Flight 182 tells the story of the 1985 Air India bombing through an intimate, character-driven lens, honoring the lives lost while exploring the human cost of duty, risk, and remembrance. Rippin talks about how her upbringing in Selma, California, her faith, and her tight-knit community helped shape the heart of this project. She also shares her plans to expand the short into a feature film, a vision that just received a huge boost. In major news, Ridley Scott has now joined Flight 182 as executive producer, underscoring the importance and cinematic potential of this story. It's a powerful conversation about creativity, legacy, and using film to honor lives and histories that should never be forgotten. And now, let's jump into my conversation with Rippin. Well, good afternoon, good morning to you, actually, Rippin. How are you doing? You're calling in from Los Angeles.
I am from good old Los Angeles. I'm happy to be here. Nice to see you, Joe.
Since we've seen each other in person, it's been a long time. We talked a couple months ago, I think, but it's been a long time since we've seen each other in person. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's so wild. It's like I see you and I feel like those years haven't passed.
I know.
And yet here we are, 2025. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to have you here. I'm so excited to talk about your film, Flight 182. I told you before we started recording, I've watched it multiple times. I love it. You did an amazing job with it. And I'm so proud of you for everything that you've done. So just a preemptive congratulations on everything that's going your way.
A compliment from you, Joe, is like the highest bar. So I'm like, yes.
I want to start by going back to the very beginning. We're not gonna go too long in this territory, but I want you to tell me a little bit about your upbringing in Selma, California. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing, and then also tell me a little bit about how did you discover your love for the arts and creativity in your youth?
So I grew up in Selma, California. And I always say this fun fact for those who don't know but have seen Sun-Made Raisins, it's a red box. That's my hometown. So just to give you a picture of really growing up in rural California, farmlands, majority are immigrant laborers. My parents actually came from India in the 80s. So growing up, it was really about being cared for by my grandmother, intergenerational home, and really like making the most with what we had. That was always the mindset. Like my parents were always very supportive, but my mom worked in a factory, my dad worked in real estate. And so I was really raised by my brother, my sister, who are older than me, and then my grandma. I had a box and literally I just it was a cardboard box and I would write like resources on it. And like if my mom came back from the factory with knickknacks, at some point it was like puff paints, or I found like scraps around the house, I would like put them in this box. And then I would find myself when my grandma was taking care of me, just like throwing everything on the carpet with a couple of dolls that I might have had, and like piecing them together. And I honestly like look back and I would create these little stories like, so-and-so Barbie did this. And then I remember I got like a Barbie that actually had a sari on. It was like my first time I saw a brown Barbie. And it just felt like this world of my imagination was growing. So growing up, like I was always in choir. I was in theater. I was in musical theater. I was, a student body president of my high school. A lot of firsts for me in my community. So I always kind of stood out. But this idea of like what a career as an artist could look like, it really just wasn't defined because nobody I knew had really done that. And being South Asian and really balancing, tradition and culture and, obviously with my parents, some ability of being safe and stable in a country that they were sort of new to, it was always this fine line of what do I do? But story was always with me, essays, poetry, peach blossom. I was writing my own column in the school newspaper in high school called The Clarion. And it was like a Dear Abby, but I would write, but I was so raw and so personal. And something that really happened to me that changed my life is I unexpectedly lost my own mom at the end of my senior year of high school. And so I remember looking back, like writing one of the most vulnerable columns I've ever written about hitting your low point. And here I was, I was like this student body president, and like I had been homecoming queen and done all of these things. Like I'd started a lot of different chapters, and that was something always unique to me is I grew up in such a world that was rural and didn't have a lot, but it
Mm.
was so much in the relationships that I had cultivated. And so writing that column was like a deep healing process for me. And I could have gone one of two ways. I could have been like, look, I got into UCLA and I don't feel ready to go. Or I can figure out how to go while I'm still dealing with a lot of this personal setbacks and sort of figure out my own way. And that stretch, it was really one of the most difficult parts of my life is leaving my rural town, coming to Los Angeles and choosing this institution versus other ones. And part of that is because I had friends from my own high school who were older than me that had also gone to UCLA. And I sort of look back and like, had those things not happened, I don't know if I could say surely like I would be at UCLA and then I would be taking classes in sociology and English because I was processing my pain, to be honest. I would come back from a long day of taking classes in all these other subjects. I was like pre-med at one point, pre-law at one point. But I found that like the writing was effortless. The sociology classes, I was acing them. And I would come home into my dorm room and I would like the first thing I would do is pull out my journal and really just let myself go, talk about things that, whether it was losing my mom, whether it was what my dreams were. But I will say, I think that one of the most difficult parts of my own journey was when you don't come from many resources or you have cultural boundaries, there's a lot of self pressure of what you can be, especially if you don't see it. So I think my biggest hurdle in life was like giving myself the permission to say, you can do this, you can try something, and it's okay if it doesn't work out necessarily the way that we want or hope. But it's probably the best decision I made. And I could get into that, but that's a whole other story of when I actually made the jump.
I want to talk about this deep sense of community that you already kind of mentioned, community that was fostered through your family and also through your faith growing up, because this is a clear theme within the film. Tell me a little bit about just the sense of community that your hometown built in you.
Growing up, the Sikh temple was such a big part of my life. And one of the biggest practices in the faith is giving to others more than you are receiving. And we call it seva. I actually made a documentary about this. But
Hmm.
my culture and my faith is a really big bedrock of the things I care about because in the faith is really about communalism, and it is really about looking to your left and right and building. And so anything that we create is of service to something bigger. And to me, that was something that was really ingrained from my mom. She was an active participant growing up of community. It didn't matter if it was inside of the temple or within Selma at large, even though she didn't speak, English fluently or have all of the Western traditions and norms. She was bold in a way where people gravitated towards her. And, when you speak that language of community, it really transcends boundaries. So she was the figure in my life that I truly love to live by, those ideals. So when I'm really creating a project, that's one of the first things I think about, which is kind of unconventional in some ways. Like, I love the grassroots. And I think it's something as simple as that child in me, which is like, it's like, I'm so excited to make this thing. And now let's go figure out how to make this thing. And it doesn't really have to be that complicated if you look at life that way. And of course, as the projects get bigger and the resources needed are bigger and the finances needed are bigger. But I think at the heart of it, it's like, I want to do this thing and I want to do it with family, and I want to do it with people I care about. And I'm constantly thinking like, okay, if this something that I make as a project is not only telling a great story, but how can I get people involved? Because their service to the world is equally as important as making art. And we
Yeah.
can talk about that in terms of how that happened with Flight 182, because there's so many community partners. And I honestly, it's like the wildest thing to look at where this film is now, having seen where it started.
With this sense of community, it's built with your family, it's built with your neighbors back in your hometown, and it sounds like you've also expanded that mindset to your filmmaking career as well. You've been in Los Angeles now for over 15 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
assume over that time you've started to learn, okay, these are the people that I gravitate towards as artists, as friends, as part of my filmmaking family, and maybe these are some that I don't collaborate with as much. And that's totally okay. And what I really love is finding out about how you combine these families still. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
you work with your brother, but like you shoot in your hometown and it has like a very hometown feel to it. So I love that you're still able to blend these worlds together. And also it has to be really eye-opening to young artists back home, back in Selma, to see you come back and be like, look at this, look at what we can do, look what we can create, all of us together. It's got to be really eye-opening for the next generation.
Yeah, exactly. And Joe, like to your point, that's why I do that is wherever I can take these projects back, I want there to be a sense of ownership from all of these different people. And one of the things that I love to do on my set as I grow with every project is to bring young people on the set. You know, when they see like this big truck pulling in and these big lights coming out, it's like, oh my God, you're making a movie. You know how many times I
Yeah.
actually see that and hear that is like, oh,
Yeah.
this is a real movie. It's a real thing. But like, I just like love demystifying it
Yeah.
because I'd never had that. So when we're talking about pursuing a career that not only you can't see yourself in, but it looks so far away because it's like put on this pedestal of something unattainable. So I just, like I brought a young mentee in. I said, come to Village, come sit right behind me and look at all this stuff. And I will say, like, that also comes because there's been very generous mentors in my life, incredible people that are at a very high level on very high shows and movies that will pull me up and say, Rippin, we want to bring you in. We think you're ready. And that ability just to like show you what the master plan is, I think that's incredible.
It's so beautiful when people actually look behind them while they're climbing the ladder and are helping up the people below them, because there are some people that'll do that and there's some people that are trying to pull up the ladder as fast as they can too. So
Yeah.
I love to hear that you're doing that. And they're lucky to have you in their life to show them Video Village, show them some of the fun of filmmaking. Let's talk a little bit about your brother. Let's talk about your relationship with your brother, because you two co-founded your production company, and I want to know what is unique about the collaboration and the creative process when you're working with your sibling, and what makes your relationship so special.
Yeah. It's crazy because sometimes people are like, you work with your brother in such a close capacity. And I honestly think it's one of the biggest gifts that we've given each other. And to start, really, he's on the acting and producing side, and I'm on the writing, directing, and producing side most of the time. And so between our skill sets, it allows us to sort of create this magnetic sort of approach to what we want to do because we're able to see what pieces we have and what we don't. And he's always been my big brother. He's always been a role model in a sense. But at the same time, like when we are shifting dynamics in any given scene, I think at the end of the day, we both support each other in making the best project possible. And so when we first started, like we all both had our supporting careers and he had done Issa Rae's web series. That's really what kind of started a lot of this is he said, I'm doing this web series and it's a cool thing. I think we should make a web series too. We should start taking your writing and like turn it into a web series. So we made The Man of Mystery. Any pocket change he had and I had, we would just like pull it together in this little fund. And then we would figure it out and we would say, let's just, go make something. And he would always say, like, the more we invest in ourselves and we build this up, like there was a point in our trajectory where he said, let's go get this camera and let's go get these lenses and let's go get you to shoot some stuff that, you haven't shot before. And so I think like in the process of this last decade, it's been allowing us to stretch in so many ways. And then when I'm directing him, there's like such a deep level of respect of like, you're not my brother in that circumstance. I'm not your sister in that circumstance. Like, yes, outside of like the scene work or whatever, but we have a common goal and we are always trying to bring out the best and be of the best service. And so there's a lot of respect there. We never came by way of having an abundance of finances, an abundance of resources. So to us, it really has been like, okay, if he's booking a commercial, it's about reinvestment into the Cinderella pocket. If I'm doing something, how do we just use our money to create more projects and really more assets as a company?
When you're saying you have to kind of find that break of when you're working together and you're like, okay, I'm not your sister, I'm not your brother. It's like that does come from a mutual respect for, I assume, the story. Is it difficult to like turn off and be like, you're not really my brother anymore, and now I'm the director and now our dynamic shifts? Is it hard, or do you guys kind of naturally fit into that?
No, I'm not. I mean, like all siblings, we have our sticky moments where we're like, really? But at the end of the day, we understand. Like, I can call back like one of my first films, like I was starting to fall behind schedule in a way where I was like, I probably won't be able to make this scene. And like, he steps over and he was just like, look, and he was producing that. He's like, I really need you to step up. I really need you to move this forward or else we're really going to lose this shot, And there's something about your big brother telling you that you're just like, this is so sticky, but you're so right. I
Yeah.
remember I was acting in that project too, and I couldn't get this silly cup to hit the glass exactly to make it shatter. And then the moment he got in my ear, I was like, oh yeah, you want to tell me that? And I just like threw it in a bullseye and it just shattered and everyone was like, wow, this is amazing. And we're like, great, let's move on. But like, I'm glad that those kind of moments happen because I think there is trust, but there is also this reality. Like, we can't sit here and be like, it's all fun and roses when you're on a set trying to make like X amount of pages in a given amount of time.
Yep.
So there is sometimes where like your sibling can come in and be like, Gurinder, okay, that scene is not working. We really got to fix this. Like we really, and so like, and my direction has to get a little tighter and a little bit more snappy on like, hey, we really got to get this, this is what it looks like. And this is what we got to get. And we respect it. Like he's always been my biggest fan. I have always been his biggest fan. And at the same time, like we have a very strong business alignment of like, okay, we don't like wasting people's time. We got to come in super prepared. And, between his skill set and mine, because sometimes as when you're so creative, you get so in this particular vision of like, okay, now we're executing this, and I think where my brother and I really complement each other is we really humanize the experience. And so one of the things he always said when we were starting out our productions was, this idea of seva and serving. So it's just a fun anecdote, but after we finish our final day of a production, we cook Indian food and we bring it out to the crew. And my brother and I serve them. That idea of a homemade meal that's warm and given from us with love is like, we're not just here to make a project and a good film, but like you are part of something that we are generously like grateful for. And we get to make art with you. And what a privilege.
I love that tradition, and I hope you keep it up even as productions of yours are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's like you're gonna start to be feeding a lot of mouths pretty
Oh.
soon if you continue at this rate. But let's dive into Flight 182. Can you give us a little bit of backstory about Flight 182 and the real life event that it was based on? Because it's a fascinating story, and it's also a fascinating story that a lot of information on it is erased. Tell us a little bit about the event that it's based on and how this story came to life for you.
Flight 182 is based off of these true events. On June 23rd, 1985, there was a flight that was traveling from Canada en route to Delhi, and it went off the Irish coast, and it landed in the Atlantic Ocean and instantly killed everyone that was on board. And so there were 329 lives on this Air India plane. This was the biggest attack before 9/11. There was a bomb that was planted inside of a suitcase that took down that aircraft. We're talking about a summer flight. We're talking about children, families, and yet like the world doesn't really know about it, and it has to do with like how it was really handled in the aftermath. Yes, it was the 80s, but it didn't get the media attention. There was no ownership of like, you had all of these different governments involved, and so like it happened on international water. On one hand, you have this Canadian government, the aircraft is from India, but you also have, England, you have Ireland, you have all of these other countries. And there was a second bomb that actually went off in Japan where it went off prematurely. So it was targeted towards another Air India flight. Both bombs are known as the Air India bombings of 1985. And there's such a big story in South Asian culture and community. And yet there's a lot of fear about talking about it openly because there was a separatist group and a lot of shortcomings and a lot of mishandling of evidence. And for me, having a personal connection to this flight with Uncle Daljit Singh while that was on this flight, this topic would surface and then go away and surface. And it was in the pandemic. I was with his daughter, Prab, and we were sitting and we were talking about our own grief. There was so much fear of like, what is happening in the pandemic? We were literally scared of leaving our homes. We were listening to the news continuously and thinking like, I don't know, but I have this crazy fear, like I could lose everyone that I love in a moment. And I think that still continues, whether we look at violence, gun violence, political violence everywhere in the world. And so the story really started there for me is how do I make this a very contained human story that we can all relate to?
Jumping off of that, I want to talk about what you view as the thematic heart of the film. This takes place in 1985, but these themes are very relevant today, maybe even more relevant than they were then. And it deals with the mother character who is fearful of her husband getting on this flight. And what do you feel are the core themes of this project?
The deep-rooted conflict that each of us could have as humans. Like, do you fulfill your dutiful responsibility to your sick loved one across the sea? Or do you recognize the level of danger and try to figure out what is the right thing to do? I think at the very heart of it is like, in the face of risk and in the face of danger, what is the right thing to do? And do you do it? I think that that's kind of the heart of this film is that conflict we face on the regular. It doesn't really matter which scenario it is in, but when we are in deep conflict with what is the right thing to do, that's a question I ask myself.
I was wondering a bit about the daughter character. And I love the bit of dialogue where the father is saying that what he wants to pass along to his kids is to do the right thing no matter what. And in my head, I was thinking about like I wonder what that daughter's perspective would be in the future.
There is this relationship between the character that I've created based on actual, events and anecdotes. But then there's also this separation between my real cousin that I see, and like how her life has really evolved and what fears have really stuck out. And that is a constant decision of like, what is the right thing to do? I mean, for many families, there's a real fear of getting on flights, having gone through the trauma of losing someone. Something as simple as that. What is your perspective on needing to take a flight to get somewhere and how that is held into your body when you've actually lost your parent in the process? So this idea of like, what is safe in the world and what isn't is a constant question. And I don't know what the answer is to that because sometimes the things that used to feel very safe growing up feel extremely unsafe in this world.
And I want to now talk a little bit about the writing process because really deep themes, really great characters within this story, but you had 10 pages to tell the story, correct?
Yep.
How how as a writer are you able to extract such emotion in such a short amount of time? When you're approaching it, like what do you really focus on to bring that emotion across?
I think sometimes when you're given strict guidelines, it actually allows you to work within those parameters and it pushes you. And I think that goes back to my childhood of like having X amount of resources and having to like create something out of them. So there was this grant by the Julia S. Gow CAPE grant for $25,000. And it had a page limit on it, which was 10 pages. So, given those parameters of 10 pages, I was like, okay, let's reverse engineer this, but keep the heart of the story. I always knew I wanted it to be about a family. And what is it about a family? Because it's something so simple and contained, and yet can be very dynamic in the everyday. And so, I started there. And then I thought there were two things that just never would escape my mind and my heart. And it was this Cabbage Patch doll and this suitcase. And they kept coming back to me. And I'm like, okay, if I can cover the suitcase and I can cover the Cabbage Patch doll, but really keep the framework within the family, that's the story I want to tell. And so everything was very deliberate because I also see so much of this expanding and I wanted people to get away into my brain to see like, okay, this is exactly what I see feeding into the future film. But every single word, everything is very thought out because there's no wasted space. So everything from the transitions, the visual transitions, how can we make this so tight? Because literally in 16 minutes and 48 seconds, you're getting a lot,
Yeah.
a lot.
When you watch it, it's clear how deliberate all of your choices are, and it's clear this was the exact vision that you had. Again, going back to those transitions, whether they're visual, whether they're auditory transitions, you have wonderful transitions, and also every frame of it is so packed with information that you don't even notice on the first watch, but you go back a second time and you're like, oh, the way that like the couple is framed and like these little vignettes that you're getting into them that reveal about their characters. Do you write all of that into the script, or does that evolve over time, these visions, these transitions? Do you write that in, or is it something you find with your collaborators, your cinematographer, your editor, your sound designer?
All of that is thought out, especially for this film, because when you're in 10 pages, I'm thinking, okay, what are the cuts that are going to get me to effortlessly continue this story? You know, like a cut from the family and then into the suitcase, but keep it as a through line. The sound is its own character.
Yeah,
It's its completely own
sound design is
character.
wonderful.
And I love working with Sound Brigade. Brett and Ken are incredible human beings, and we have now done everything from my first film to now. In pre production, I was already giving them this script and saying, I imagine that this beep from this alarm is going to go off and it's going to really transition, but I kind of need that to hold and really play. What do you guys think? You know? And they
Hmm.
might come to me and be like, Rippin, you know, like these are some choices early on, but obviously, like what you decide. And I love writing in a way where I have to know why things are in the script and whether people push back on it or bring in another perspective, that's awesome. But like I know what the ingredients are in the kitchen, you know,
Yeah.
and then what we make together is magic.
I mean, I love your attention to detail, and especially with a period piece that is not a time period that you or I have necessarily lived in. I guess we were at the like we were born towards the tail end of this. I was 88, and this was 85. The amount of research that must have gone into this is a little staggering to me because, again, like I'm watching it and it all feels natural. It feels like we just stepped into a different time. Talk a little bit about the time period and the research.
I was looking at everything. And that's because also like at this scale, you don't have all the resources to bring on an art department and production design to like do the prep work for all of this stuff. It's
Mm.
just sometimes not possible, you know? I was digging into old archives, looking at everything authentic. And then my family actually also has a book of remembrance with a lot of details in it. And I was grabbing little things here and there, and then being able to have my family share so many photographs with me,
Mm.
everything from like what the wallpapers would look like, because I wanted this to feel as real as possible, and I wanted to do everything I could to get us there, you know. I have folders on folders on folders. I felt a deep responsibility to this project in a way that I was pushed beyond my limit in a lot of ways, and that happened in prep, you know. Everything from, it's also like such a short amount of time, so if you're going to set up a separatist group, really knowing what you're going to say about it, and really knowing like, okay, this could be a touchy subject in a lot of ways. I didn't originally have the airplane scenes in the script.
Mm.
Sometimes that can be a little tricky when you are used to being so independent and like, okay, can I even get an airport at that
Right.
scale? You know, it's just some things you think about, but it's a great lesson in learning to also not compromise, that if you really say something and believe something with conviction, the right pieces do align in it. And so what actually happened is I ended up finding, you know, two airplane sets in Los Angeles. We were able to get the 80s look, but there's things that we did. And with my production designer, some of those coverings are like bought online. They're blankets that are bought online, but there's so much research done of like, what is the color palette? Okay,
Mm.
how do we take this thing and give it the look without breaking the bank? So some kind of stenciling that's done, some kind of window fixtures that are done. So everything's tasteful and minimalist, but it's keeping in relationship to like what are undeniable needs. The house had to be so real,
Yeah.
because if it was real in a way that everyone could relate to, it doesn't matter what race, religion, any of that. If you could feel this family in the way that everything was embodied, then you would be invested. So much thought was given about the weather of the day. I mean, I have a whole list of like what the raindrop was like and what's of this, but because like the lighting of what that coming through the window fixtures, what that mood was going to feel like, and how this storm was going to evolve even into what is called scene 11, where the parents are at the dinner table and there's a thunderstorm right before he's going to get onto the plane. Adding to this, as we were building this world, I actually relocated back to Selma for a while because we flipped a trailer home to play for 1980s. The walls were cream colored to begin with, and the level of community support that I have received, I had people come in with me hand in hand. I was there, they were there, we were wallpapering, you know? And you know, I was really keen on the kitchen being a space for this mom. This is her world. It's different from other parts of the house. And it was so important to me to tile the floor. I remember one night it was like my friend Ricardo and his sister Erica and Happy, one of my producers, were like laying in tile on the kitchen floor. And we're just like, yes, this looks amazing. But like that's like true independent work. And yet I really think a film is born in the details.
There's so many little details that make this world and this home that the family's occupying feel organic and feel true to them, and they feel natural visually how they look there, and then natural also in their movements. I'm wondering, what was the rehearsal process like with the actors to get them feel so comfortable and lived in within this space that you created for them?
Part of my job that I take very seriously as a creative and as a director is to care for my performers so that they are able to bring their best work forward. There's no like, oh, what is it going to look like before we show up to set? Are we going to have a rehearsal? Are we not? I give you the playbook. Once I knew I was going to use this trailer home and really recreate it, I really built out the model for them. Everything from the floor plan, and I took all this video footage and I would give them all of these assets well in advance and say, I want you to really orient yourself with the space so you know that this is where the hallway is, and this is where the kitchen is, and this is where the living room is, so that you understand that this is your house. And I would allow the actors to bring parts of themselves and make certain decisions in the process of it. Like, for Sandeep, can you please bring some pieces of your own cookware into the kitchen? For
Mhm.
Gurinder, what are some things that you want to contribute to this set? And I think what's beautiful is that on the everyday, Joe, like you probably in your house being like, you're not really aware of it, but there is so much
Mhm.
movement. And
Mhm.
I think in my personal visual style, like I love movement. So, really in the rehearsal process, I wanted to give my actors as much of my time and my energy and clarity so that there's no surprises. You show up on set, this is what it is, and now we play and we bring it to life.
It sounds like you were also in a pretty confined space. The movements with the camera, I imagine you guys had to be pretty wide with your lenses for some of these movements, which must have been like a tight space. So rehearsal must have been pretty precise with both the actors as well as the Steadicam operator and the DP, correct?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was just such a tight space and gosh, you're just getting all the feels out of me because I love this part of filmmaking. It's so awesome to do the prep and come into this place where you get to play. And like James Marin, who is the Steadicam operator on this and working with Ray Wong, like it's so incredible how people can get into your brain when you're also like sharing the prep with them and they could just
Mhm.
help you elevate the work. Just everything was so thought out and his ability to like be super fluid and use it like the space was so tight also that my conversations with James too is like James, look, how do we work together to make this happen? I know that I love the Steadicam tool, but I wanted to just not feel like super steady cam. I want it to feel like you're just flowing and you're going and you're being and everyone that's watching is immersed in it. And he's phenomenal, you know? And there's this one scene where like we have the mirrors, right next to the table. And I was like, look, I might not have money to paint that out. So, like, really got to turn that and really get it. And we got to get you out of the frame because you're going to get all these reflections in the mirror. And he was just like, Rippin, I got you, And I was like, great, let's do it.
Do you have a favorite shot from your project? Do you have one image where you're like, if I could frame this and hang it on the wall, this is the shot I love the most?
Ooh, okay, I'm going to say it. I love that shot where the husband and wife are both in the frame. She's in the kitchen,
Hmm.
he's in the living room,
Yeah,
he's in the background, she's in the foreground. It's one of my favorite shots of the film.
yeah. No, me too. I already mentioned that one earlier. I was like, that was a
I
stunning
know.
shot.
But what's so wild, Joe, is like I didn't know I was going to be able to find a location that could offer me that shot. And
Yeah.
that's a whole other the way we found this location is just wild. And it ended up being someone through our family and our community. I went to go look at their original house, but they had renovated inside. And then their daughter, Happy, just like happened to be home and listened to my conversation. And I was like, I'm really looking for something that could play for 80s and has these like really like wood cabinets in the kitchen, wood panels. And she was like, well, I have this trailer home. Like, do you want to just like come check it out? Oh my God. Like she's never seen someone so happy to see this trailer home. And I like turned around exactly from the vantage point of that favorite shot and was like, oh my God. Wow.
Yes.
And I've had so many moments like that with this particular project that just feel very synergetic.
Oh, that's so cool. I love all of that I love seeing how the sausage is made and knowing all the behind the scenes of filmmaking. Now, one of the next steps for you, I don't know how far you are in the writing process, but the idea is to create a feature length version of this story. Where are you in that process, and how do you also see the story evolving and changing on this larger canvas?
So we are multiple drafts in now of the feature film. It was a finalist for the Sundance Collab cultural residency, and I just pitched it fully to at Rideback as the feature. So it's been building so much momentum. And I was pretty much writing the feature as soon as I was done with the short. And what's interesting about it, it's a much bigger film. It's actually from the vantage point of the mom. And it's more of like the pursuit of answers because this was the longest standing trial in Canadian history and it lasted for more than 20 years. There was a public apology that was actually issued in 2010 by the Prime Minister, and it was a final acknowledgement to the families that there was a mishandling of evidence. There was missteps that were taken in the investigations. And so even though only one person was ever convicted and let go, this is a very complex story. You know, key witnesses were killed in the process. There was an acquittal that actually happened. And yet, these families, you know, mine included, were showing up to this bulletproof courtroom and trying to have answers. I mean, the reason that we don't see this in textbooks, there are no museums about it. This is a catastrophe on a social level, you know, for humans to not know. If we don't know history and we don't see them in visual form, then it's a complete disservice. So part of wanting to make this film, this short and this feature is really about memory justice. And there
Yeah.
are so many stories we think about that really don't get told. Understanding and recognizing what had happened, it's so important because that's the only way that we can prevent recurrence. You know, that's the only way that we can bridge gaps that we have in society is if we actually acknowledge people and human beings and have them be protected by institutions and by governments. And sadly, that's obviously not always the case. But I just, you know, want to do my due diligence of really getting this story out there because I think it needs to be seen.
And when you're crafting the feature length version, you've done so much research and you probably have accounts from so many families and real stories. Are you able to incorporate some of those real stories into the full length version? How do you like to play with the stories that you've been given?
The history definitely is always in top of mind of like, how do I actually bring that in? How does this scene allow for this other woman that I've met who has been at the forefront of rallying for change and advocacy? So it's a type of script too where there's always more research. And then when you look at the draft and you think, oh, okay, now when I go back to more of these dissertations or all of this other research, I can enhance it. So we're really at such a critical part now where it's really being packaged. There's been interest in where we're going to set this project up. How does that look? So there's a lot of questions at the table. And I'm almost like, wow, this is happening. This is moving forward. What the short film has really proven to me is I can take $25,000 and flip it into a period piece that resonates across the country, you know?
Yeah.
And it's been so gratifying to see that it doesn't really matter what race, culture you're in, but people in the audience, I get letters all the time from someone telling me someone that they knew was on this flight or their direct relative. And so I just know that I'm walking in my purpose and I don't want to compromise what the value of this film is going to be and what that really takes to make happen. It's a lot to be determined, but I know that it's going to happen.
That's beautiful. I love it. And I want to know, you're out in the festival circuit now. You're taking us out. It's being seen by audiences all over the country, all over the world. Are there any stories of interactions with audience members that stick out in your mind? Are there any, like, I imagine you must have some beautiful encounters with people following these screenings.
One of my earliest screenings was in Seattle, and there's quite a few moments that stick out from that screening. One of them was a young girl who came up to me and like wanted a hug and started crying. And she was like, I'm so sorry. I said, no, this is, you know, she's like, I just feel like you really unlocked something for me. And I feel like it's something with my ancestors, something that seeing a part of like what my parents may have endured in their own ways. I've never seen something like this, you know, and I just kind of held her and I said, you know, that is so powerful to have that kind of effect in 17 minutes on someone. And then in that same screening, there was an Italian woman who stood up during the Q&A, and she said, I just happened to be walking by this theater and I saw that there were films playing, and I just happened to take a seat with my husband. And she said, look, I'm not from your culture. I didn't know this story. I just happened to sit here today, but I wanted to share, like, I'm so emotional about it. Like the scenes of the kitchen, for her, it was the cooking, that felt
Mhm.
like it's like her motherhood, and I just thought, wow, like there's something so different that people get from it. And that to me is just, I don't know, is extremely special. And yeah, and there's so many stories, but I think the very last story, if I may share with you,
Please.
is within my own family.
Mhm.
When Prab and I went to screen this we started off the festival at ISAF in Canada, and it was the hometown. It was of the origin story. And it was a very emotional first time viewing, but I think at the end of that, she was really proud of seeing the film, and she and I just shared this really tender moment where she was like, it's really helped me heal some things in myself. And
Mhm.
to be able to talk to my own son, to tell him in some form, I never really felt comfortable sharing any of this with
Wow.
my family. And her brother was always also, there was just like so much family. And I don't know, I just, Joe, sometimes I kind of look at what where life is, even with this short, and just say like, wow, like I'm just a vessel for it to come out in the world. And
Yeah.
like, thank you for choosing me, universe, to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's the timing of why this project versus other projects on my slate have really, like, inched forward.
You have, with this story, you have hit on something that is fundamentally human and emotions that are fundamentally human. Because again, it's like I agree with the woman, the Italian woman that's talking about the cooking. It's like, well, this isn't my exact family, but it is the shared experiences that they have. It's the little conversations that they have. It's the asides that the mother and the father have that transcends whatever nation you live in, and makes us a family and makes us all human. And it is a beautiful, beautiful film, a beautiful story. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing it with the world, and then also having this conversation with me about it.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you just for your your approach to everything that you do, and to be able to like look at cinema and art and really dissect it. It means so much to me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's always amazing, and I can't wait to see what's next for you. Whether it's the full length feature or if it's a completely separate project. Who knows? Who knows what's coming next? But I love following your journey. Where can people go to find out more information and possibly come see it at one of your screenings?
And the best way to follow it is there's an Instagram page dedicated to all of this information, and it's at Flight 182 Film. So you can follow me there.
Thank you so much again, Rippin, for chatting with me today. It's wonderful to see you. I
Me-
miss hanging out with you at the Directors Guild. We didn't even cover
Right?
that, but
I
I miss
know.
those taking those definitely longer breaks than we were supposed to have. All just chatting cinema, chatting life. So
Well, Joe, I can't leave this without saying, I mean, thank you. You've always played a huge role. I think you are a testament to those break room moments. Before I had the courage to fully fly into film, and I would geek out and say, hey, Joe, all these technical things with this camera and this drone. And you were so generous with your time and energy. And it's a privilege to know you, and it's a
oh,
gift to see you do all the things.
you're so sweet. I would love to be going out to LA more often, and I will let you know the next time I'm in town so we can hang out in person because it's been like 5 or 6 years.
Too long, too
Yeah,
long. Yes.
it's crazy. But until then, we're all going to follow your journey however we can.
Yeah.
And just thank you so much for sharing your stories and sharing your time.